I think I was going to break this in the second year, man. She's like the Caitlin Clark of vetoes. I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
All right, welcome back to another great week, an edition of Politics Unplugged, the podcast edition. Man, it is great to be joined again by the great Hank Stephenson with the Arizona Agenda. Thank you very much for coming back here. It's been a hell of a week, hasn't it?
Always happy to wake up at 9 a.m. and put on clothes to come down here and hang out with you, Dennis. Yep. It has been a good week. Lots of bills died, so that was good.
Thank you for wearing clothes.
Yep. You made a point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mandatory. I went above and beyond with the pants. They're jeans, but still.
See, it's what makes you not only a great journalist, but a great businessman. You go above and beyond.
That's right. You know,
I say stuff like, Hank, you got to wear a shirt. Boom, he shows up with pants.
The front of this shirt.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's get down to business, man.
Quality content.
Let's create some content, dude.
All right.
All right. We are halfway through, ostensibly, of the 100-day session, right? Because every session only goes 100 days, right?
99 if we're lucky. I'm feeling a 99 session year, 99-day session year.
I don't see that happening, but like we can hope. We can hope. But, yeah, so we're halfway through. We've got, bills crossing over, getting hundreds of bills getting voted on, going back and forth from one house to the other. What's the big trend you're seeing?
Veto bait, I guess. A lot of veto bait. Most of these bills that are going to the floor at this point don't have a lot of bipartisan support. That's something that matters, to the governor, the Democratic governor. She wants to see at least one or two Democratic votes on those bills if she's going to break out her pen instead of the veto stamp. So I think, Republicans have their agenda. It's not the agenda that the governor has. They're going to push it through the legislature. It's going to get vetoed, and we're going to be back to square one in a month or two.
So for the layman, because that's our audience here. It's the people just getting into politics and stuff like this. So if this is like the Fisher-Price legislature, there we go. So like a starter set for the legislature. What's the point? Because a lot of these bills, and we're not talking specifics for a reason, because it's just so many of them. A lot of the bills were vetoed last year. They're back again.
Yeah. It's statement stuff. Some of it's being watered down slightly, like kind of testing the boundaries of, she didn't sign this, but maybe she'll sign that. But it's really hard to care this year. I look at a lot of these bills and I'm like, well, I could write about that committee hearing or whatever. There was kind of an interesting debate on it, but at the end of the day, what's the point? If this makes it through the legislative process, we know the outcome on this. It's a veto.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge with that, and you're trying to look. I don't know about you. I'm sure you are. I'm doing this too. It's like what is Hobbs going to sign? And I don't see much real policy stuff that she is going to sign this year.
Well, there's only a handful of things that they need to do. You know, when we look at the 350 whatever bills that they pass and sign into law on an average session, a lot of them are not actually mandatory here. We've got 5, 6 maybe big issues that really need to be addressed.
Water is a big
housing,
issue.
There's stuff like that where everyone agrees, and it's kind of, there's even some agreement on some of the policy solutions. So I think we will see, potentially some compromise, some solutions coming out of the legislature to the big problems facing Arizona. But, this onslaught of bills for every perceived problem that's facing this state, it's not as fun to watch the Capitol as it used to be, when it used to be a guessing game of, will Governor Ducey sign this? Does it go too far? Now it's pretty clear-cut stuff,
But some of it is interesting to me, like the people who vote for certain legislation, even though it's not going to go anywhere. I'm fascinated by this bill, this John Kavanaugh bill.
Election cancellation?
Yeah, the cancellation.
I like that one too.
Republicans are voting, what's ostensibly moderate Republicans have voted for this. In committee, TJ Shope, Speaker Pro Tem. voted for this bill in committee. This seems to me to be the definition of, disenfranchising a voter. Because
just calling for do-overs of elections.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you don't cross a 25% threshold in a non-regular like November election, so you're talking about what? Override bond override bills, city elections, particularly those cities that are run by Democrats. If you don't get a 25% turnout, which a lot of those elections are very low turnout, Kavanaugh says, well, we should just toss out the results and hold it again.
I mean, what they really want to do is push all elections into November and, August, maybe July nowadays, and eliminate those special elections. John Kavanaugh has tried to do this for years. His old seatmate took up the cause for a while there. They cannot do that because charter cities have charters and they're allowed to set their own elections. But if you start tinkering with the rules of what qualifies as an election, well, let's just bump it up to 50%. If 50% of the voters don't show up, let's throw out the results. What about 75?
Why 25?
37%. Yeah. I mean, it's an arbitrary cutoff there. And I think the goal is just to, highlight that there is low turnout in these local elections and, add a little bit more fodder to the argument for doing away with those elections altogether.
And I get it, but, when you're on the one hand arguing about election integrity and then trying to take votes away, like if you and I vote in an election and we're the only ones who voted in a legitimate election,
well, it's going to be a tie.
I know. We don't agree on anything. We'll have to get Colin, producer Colin, over there to break the tie.
Tiebreaker.
He's the tiebreaker.
I think it goes to like a game of Cholo, right? Isn't that how we break ties in Arizona?
Rock, paper, scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors. A game of chance. I think
that's right. That's right. The game of chance.
There's that old video of Jane Hull and the visor pulling whatever it was.
That's one of my favorite videos.
Very Arizona.
Very Arizona.
When there's a tie, we just, go to a game of cards.
Yes.
Some dice, maybe.
Yes. And for people not familiar, please Google this. It's
Jane. Put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And the show notes Jane Hull decided a tied election by a game of chance, so she played a game of high card.
Was that what it was?
It was high card. Yeah, like you just drew a card, and whoever had the high card won the office.
Really should have been Cholo.
Yeah. Probably could have been. But if it's only 2 votes and nobody else shows up, why am I getting disenfranchised? I took the time to vote.
I don't know, Dennis. This isn't my bill. Don't grill me on it.
I know.
Where's John Kavanaugh?
Where's John Kavanaugh? Legislating from his couch. He's got an interesting history, right? I don't want to go too far on a tangent on him, but some of his bills.
Let's go on the tangents. What are we doing here?
Because some of his bills are just dude, you legislate from your couch. He sees something on TV.
Why, there ought to be a law. That's John Kavanaugh in a nutshell.
Because this is happening in San Francisco, or his commute. Those his 2 biggest muses, right? Is the TV and his commute.
I have this picture of John Kavanaugh, and in my head, he has one of those space pens that write upside down, and he's laying in bed at night, and he's falling asleep, and he's like, "Oh, I got it," and he writes down his pithy quote for the next day and his next bill,
Yeah. No, hey, look, we're making fun, but man, it works.
I'm not making fun. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, it works too, man. Every year that he drops bills, as soon as they get dropped, they get picked up. TV, news, print. Everybody's just writing about at least one of the John Kavanaugh bills. And
beginning of the year, I just click on John Kavanaugh and see what he's doing, and that's my first week of session. I know that I've got copy solid 1 week.
Kudos to you, Mr. Kavanaugh. You figured your way around term limits. You've figured out the rubrics of what is the media. So let's talk about the other big thing. I mean, what are we hearing about budget talks? Are those things even happening?
Budget talks?
Yeah.
Budget.
The one thing they're statutorily required to do?
Now, I did talk to the Speaker of the House the other day, and I was kind of messing with him about this trip to Israel that they're taking and taking a week off, and asking him, we've got a budget deficit. You're not worried about that? So, well, actually, we just heard from the governor that she is willing to sit down with us, so we have a meeting.
Oh, we're there. Yeah, we've agreed to have a meeting.
It's March.
Okay.
Late February, I guess. So, they've agreed to have a meeting, and, maybe that'll happen before the Israel trip, maybe after, but...
That's great progress.
You got to start somewhere.
We've agreed to have a meeting. That's great progress there. I mean,
well, last year they did send her a budget within 5 days of the legislature opening or something.
Yeah,
that didn't work either.
That wasn't a symbolic gesture at all by anybody. But what do we see? Is there what's going to be the big compromise in the budget this year? From what you're seeing, at the end of the day, it'll probably happen in sometime in June. Late May, maybe, if we're lucky.
I'm still holding out for March.
Okay.
March budget.
All right.
Budget,
I'll give you the 99
signed,
days.
Sealed, done. The big thing is we've got to cut, a lot of money out of that budget, both this year's budget and the one that we're crafting for next year. I think we're going to see a lot of those one-time spending projects, bridges, roads that we built last year get unbuilt, or at least the appropriations get swept from them. We're probably going to have to sweep a lot of funds that haven't been swept since the 2010s just to make up the difference. Not going to be a whole lot of new handouts this year to the lawmakers. I mean, last year, senators and representatives were given, $20, $30 million apiece to go play with, and play they did.
Yes.
We got a whole lot of spending into that budget, and that was the only way that they could get it out of the House and Senate with bipartisan support, was just spread the love around. And it
worked last year, but it's going to be painful this year.
Yeah, and you can't do that twice.
Yeah.
There's some kind of there's an old idiom that it's easier to cut than to spend more, but I don't know if that really holds true in a divided government. It was easier to cut when Doug Ducey was governor. The legislature and governor would hold press conferences at the very beginning of the session and say, we've got a deal to cut $1 billion from government. That was really easy. But it's less easy when you've got a Democratic governor who doesn't really want to, make those cuts, and a legislature that, a lot of the easy things to cut are the things that they just prioritized, are these roads and bridges that we haven't actually started building yet, so we could take that money back. But it was the big win last year, and a lot of those projects actually need to get done. It's not wasted money. It's, pet projects for all their little districts and stuff, but it's roads and bridges. It's the core function of government.
Yeah. In rural Arizona, I mean, they do need that.
Yeah.
As you're saying, if you go travel around there, and the simplest roads are pretty terrible. Even here in the valley, there's a lot of great rapid expansion out in the far east valley, far west valley. I know this because my sister and my mother live all the way out in Santan and have to drive out there. That's a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah. You just film it in the car.
Why don't you visit?
3-hour episode.
Why don't you visit? Google Map this, Mom. But yeah, and they're going to have to start taking that back.
Yeah. Tucson doesn't even have roads. They just have dirt lots out there.
I've said that for Sorry, Tucson listeners.
There's no Tucson listeners. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm catching strays over here. So yeah, that's going to be the big copper. In the other big issue everybody talks about needs to get done. We mentioned it. Water. What can possibly happen this year that's going to make a big difference?
Well, they're certainly not going to finish that $1 billion Ducey promised
with
for the
desal
plant or whatever.
Yeah.
So, there are, I think that there may be some ability to find compromise on like the active management area stuff that the governor's been pushing. Maybe not if she's going ahead unilaterally with executive actions to kind of do these things. But I think that there was, there's hurdles in a handful of Republicans with outsized power who do not like these ideas, but there is, support from rural Republicans, especially up in northwestern Arizona, Havasu area, who are seeing their aquifers just get drained down by these huge international corporations, and it's hurting local farmers. It's hurting the local economy. It is long-term bad for this state, and they recognize that, and they are willing to, consider some sort of regulations on groundwater pumping. So we may see something like that. That's something that doesn't cost money, like a desalination plant that could be politically possible in this environment even.
All right. Well, if you're keeping track here, the legislature moving an avalanche worth of veto bait bills. Budget talks have progressed to the point of they've agreed to meet. So there we are, halfway through this legislative session. But before we wrap up here, because we are starting to get a little short on time, I do want to talk about one of the big political story of the week.
Meghan McCain.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most entertaining, to say the least.
It is. What did Meghan McCain say? How did it go? Are you allowed to say that on podcasts? Is this
We
FCC
are.
regulated?
I'll set you up and leave you with this. So Carrie Lake, ostensibly like tries to mend some fences.
That was sad.
With Meghan McCain.
We both lost fathers.
Yeah, they're both moms.
We're both humans.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we get along?
Aren't they both mama bears? Or
Yeah, she's come a long way.
Yeah.
Carrie Lake.
And sorry,
Used to respect her.
sorry for
those McCains. And
sorry
now
for
she's just sucking up to him
sorry for bashing your dad, whom you loved dearly
for
years. And the
after his death.
and the response from McCain on X was,
It was all right, Dennis. It was no peace, bitch. All caps. That's what it was. And it was great. And she just kind of kept tweeting it. And then she went on the radio and just let loose. And that was fun, too. She was, I think my favorite line was something like, Carrie Lake is dumb, but she's not dumb enough to think that she can win this without the McCain Republicans.
man.
It was merciless.
yeah, no. And Lake, too, tried to cast up some of her comments about the late senator
As
like,
jokes,
As
yeah.
jokes. Like,
Yeah.
I drove a stake
Yeah,
to
we're
the
all
heart of the
stupid
McCain
enough
machine,
to
like,
believe that
cue the
one.
laugh track.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, this.
I mean, it was a lot of them. You
Yeah.
know, if it were one thing, maybe it's like, it was a joke that just people didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But she was running with that, laugh line for a really long time, and nobody got it was a joke.
Yeah,
So.
and then she says that, John McCain would have laughed himself.
He might have.
He might have, but
But he's dead.
But he is, and it
So.
has been. Does it matter in an election? In this election, is this going to matter at all? Is this just good political theater for the week?
I don't know. I think, the Republican chattering class will make every excuse they can to vote for Carrie Lake. But she's changed. She's come around. She's different. She's not actually like that. She just seems crazy on TV. I don't know that, there's a lot of Republican voters out there, clearly, as we saw from the last election and the 2020 election, who do not like the direction that their party is going. And Carrie Lake has been that direction. And, now she's trying to put a new face on it, but I don't think underneath it all, Carrie Lake has changed at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big. But she's going to be out here next week with Barrasso from the Senate. He's leading the
Oh, I thought you meant on this podcast. You got one, Dennis. You got one at the very beginning of the campaign, and that was it. Asking about that Obama donation. How dare you?
I know.
How dare you, Dennis?
I know.
We're here to talk about serious issues, not the money I gave to Obama. I loved that interview. It was great, by the way.
It was her husband, anyway. That she said. Right, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I'm just wondering if that's going to help her win, because it seems like
What, sucking up to the McCain family?
Yeah, because as many quote jokes as she told about John McCain, like there were a lot of people in the Republican Party now that like really didn't like him, and she won support from people like that. So if she's trying to tack the other way,
That's what I said at the beginning of this.
it's
Like, I used to respect her when she would take on the McCain machine, and nowadays it's really hard. It's really hard, You just can't trust your politicians anymore. I thought she was one person, and this year she's somebody completely different, she's telling me, and I liked the old Carrie Lake.
who is she?
She's not a real person. That's the problem. None of these people are real. They're just characters.
All right, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up there. We're about 20 minutes in. I wanted to
Gotta
keep
get
it as
over
much
to,
as much as I love having you on.
You've got to go day drinking with the Secretary of State.
Yeah,
acting
his,
governor.
his beer proclamation.
Yeah.
I love the fact that when every time governor leaves, well, not every time, but 80% of the time, like Mr. Fontes is ready with a proclamation.
I would love it a lot more if we had those financial disclosure statements posted online by now, Secretary Fontes.
I would enjoy that as well, too.
I emailed 2 weeks ago. Still waiting for those. So.
And by the way, since we're talking directly to Secretary Fontes,
Those are the airing of grievances. That campaign finance system. Let me get it out one more time.
can't we be out there pushing a little bit harder for like instantaneous reporting? Why do we go through a whole year of a black box where we don't know where lawmakers are getting their money and their donations from?
Yeah. Well, we're talking about like the actual campaign finance stuff. Yeah, that's a joke of a system.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Infinite problems. But that's one the legislature did. You know, he can't make them report more often. He did voluntarily report, right? What was that piece in the Republic?
Yeah.
The Hobbs still won't say how much she raised in the last year. That's lovely.
That's fun.
Yeah. Why should we know that?
Wasn't she supposed to be the
really
transparent
our
governor?
business,
Didn't she campaign on transparency?
This is the most transparent governor in history.
Yeah, remind me. It was transparency was a part of her platform, and then she didn't want to tell us who donated to her inaugural fund.
Inaugural slush fund, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
You forgot the slush. Just got to throw it in there.
All right, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Unless you have any thoughts about, Rachel Mitchell picking a fight with the Manhattan DA.
That was fun.
That was super fun. Even though it's like it turns out it's really not within her purview.
Yeah.
Like apparently this guy, if he wants to be extradited, that's it. They extradite him.
Well, it's up to the accused criminal.
I guess if he wants, yeah,
I don't understand these laws.
Yeah, it's like you know what? Let's bring in Colin. Colin actually has been a little bit more. Yeah, Colin, have you ever been extradited?
I have not been extradited. No,
Not yet.
no. My understanding is if he's cool with extradition, then he's gone, and that's it. If he's not, then it's the governor's choice. It's between the two governors, and Rachel Mitchell is not a party to it at all. So she has no standing in the extradition debate.
There you go.
That was good legal analysis there. Good thing somebody's done their homework before they show up to this.
What do you think? Why do you think Colin has all the power here?
That's why I brought him the mug.
Oh,
It's a very nice mug, by the way. Thank you.
yeah, it's a great mug. But she does win in one sense politically out of this, even though it's completely out of her purview. This fight she picked, but she did. Politically, she's picking a fight with the Manhattan DA.
Who's picking a fight with Trump?
Who's prosecuting the whole porn stars hush money thing. Yeah. And it's got to be a win for her in the Republican primary.
Full circle. Yeah.
That's got to be a win for her politically.
I would assume so.
All right. Well, we do agree on something.
There we go. If we were a two-person election on will Rachel Mitchell win re-election?
Let's do it.
Slam dunk. Slam dunk.
And if there's a tie, Colin breaks it. Just remember that.
I'm in.
All right, we're going to wrap this part up right here. Thanks again, man.
Anytime.
Always love having you on.
Let's do it again.
And welcome back to the back half of Politics Unplugged. I'm joined now with Colin. Colin, how the hell are you? This has been an extraordinarily long week.
It has.
And I don't want to get into the specifics of this, but man, this Friday has been.
Yeah.
It's already we tape on Friday. It's already been long. It's not even noon.
Yeah. We taped the podcast on Friday. We taped the TV show on Friday.
Yeah.
It's been a long morning.
And take you behind the curtain just a bit. TV, it really takes a village.
Yeah.
It's never one or two people that you see on television. It takes a village. Yeah. And Colin, thank you very much for all your help this morning. I don't want to get into the specifics of it.
Yeah, no.
There were some issues that needed to be cleaned up this morning.
Glad to help. Glad to be our janitor for Politics Unplugged.
Man,
everything's good now.
I cannot wait until I can have a tall, cool, refreshing beer.
You gonna celebrate Beer Week?
Yeah, and celebrate Beer Week.
Yeah.
Are we stoked?
I think we're stoked.
I mean, another proclamation from the acting governor, Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, which means Governor Hobbs is out of town. And again, I love it. Yeah. I love all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of those rare political things everyone can get behind. Beer Week. It's bipartisan.
It's bipartisan. To quote the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, quote, I like beer.
I like beer. Yeah. So yeah, Adrian Fontes, man of the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe the governor, in case you are wondering, is in D.C. for the National Governors Association or one of those types of things. They go back to D.C. and do their thing back there, whatever that is.
But Fontes is here, so we didn't get the Kimberly Yee, Al Haig, I'm in charge thing that we got a few months ago.
I've invited, I keep texting our good treasurer to come on the show, TV, or the podcast, and I never get a response.
Huh?
so if she listens,
maybe we're not everyone's cup of tea.
Maybe not, but if you're listening, Madam Treasurer, you are welcome anytime to come on this show.
Yeah, happy to have you.
I mean, the biggest question I have for her still is, since it was such a big issue with Republicans, is the election integrity, and seeing that she got, I think, more votes than anybody.
It was an ass kicking, yes.
Yeah,
I guess a perfectly reasonable opponent as well. It's not like she was running against a bum. She had a former lawmaker, Martin Quezada, ran against her. Very perfectly reasonable candidate.
Yeah, and she got more votes than like anybody.
Yeah,
in 22, anybody.
Yeah,
and I'd like to get her take on whether elections are fair, free, and accurate.
Yeah. Happy to free up this chair anytime she wants it.
So consider that an open invitation for Kimberly Yee. I've known her for a long time, since she was even before she was a lawmaker. I think she worked for Dean Martin, not the singer, not the crooner, the crooner.
No, the politician.
The politician.
Yeah.
And
key distinction.
Yeah. At one point we had, I don't think they quite served together. It was like one after the other. We had in the legislature Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Nice.
Swear to God.
Nice.
Jerry Lewis, remember, was the guy who took out Russell Pierce.
Yeah. And
then Dean Martin went on to become secretary or treasurer, and he tried to run for governor in 2010. But anyway, enough with the oral history of Arizona lawmakers. Yeah. A big week this week for Arizona. We are starting off. It's spring training.
Right.
And those loyal listeners of the podcast here, as you know, Colin and I, we love to delve into sports. It's like our break away from all this political garbage, because it's just piling up, and it can be a lot, and it's a lot of fun sometimes to just chat away and talk a little bit about something else, in sports particularly, sport ball.
Yeah. And this is a magic time because my baseball team has not aggravated me yet.
Which team is that?
The California Angels, the Los Angeles Angels.
Oh, give it a week or two. Give it a couple of weeks.
No, I mean, I figure by this afternoon they'll do something that'll make me angry.
Yeah, because
that's the tradition of being an Angels fan. We've had two legendary players, two of the greatest players of all time, for several years, and never made the playoffs. And now one of them's a Dodger, and the owner of the team, who had pledged to sell the team, but then said, "Nah, I think I'll keep it. I'm just not going to spend any money on it."
Well,
announced that the money he saved on Shohei Ohtani, I don't know that we're going to be spending that.
Oh.
Why would we spend that?
You're talking about Artie Moreno, right?
Artie Moreno,
yeah. Isn't he a Tempe native?
He's he's I want to say South Phoenix, but he is a Valley native.
Yeah. So any plans to go to a spring training event this year?
I might. I don't.
It might be cheaper for you to go out to California to watch a game that matters.
Actually did a story on this last year and found that in some cases, like for a Giants game, you can sit at the upper deck for their stadium and watch a Giants game in the preseason, in spring training.
Yeah.
Or you can go to San Francisco and sit in a comparable seat there, and it was cheaper for a real game in San Francisco than it was for a spring game here. I used to love it when it was like, you could splurge and get the good reserve seat right by the dugout for $18 here, and you're not getting in the building. I think the cheapest ticket anywhere for a lawn seat was if you're going to. Someone had $15 lawn seats, but it was only for midweek games against teams no one cares about.
Well, I remember too. When we moved out here, when Pops moved the family out to Arizona, was living in Chandler, and Compadre Stadium. Remember Compadre Stadium?
Yeah, home of the Brewers. Then
the home of the Brewers, baby.
Yeah,
and I think you could go out there and there was a chain link fence, some steel bleachers. Yeah, I think it was $5-10. You could go see a game. Obviously I couldn't legally drink out there, but I can't imagine that the beer was very expensive.
I would think probably not.
But now it's I got no interest in going to go spend that kind of loot for a game that doesn't count.
Yeah, it's gotten really expensive. I mean, they pack the stadiums, so I get it. But it's
and I get if you live in Chicago. you know,
yes,
you want to come out to, hey, let's go check out the Sox, you know, and the weather's going to be great there, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
come out here and see Sox or Cubs games, totally get it.
Totally get that. Totally get that. And you know, having a little vacation toward the end of winter, that would be great.
Yeah.
But like if you live here, I'll just wait to save my money to go to an actual game. When the results actually matter. And like now with the split squads, you don't even know if
you're going to see anyone.
Yeah, if there's a bunch of people, like, okay, you know, pro tip here, if there's a bunch of people out on the field playing and their jersey numbers are like 70 above,
yes,
like they're going, they're
not a great sign.
they're going to the minors.
One thing you learn pretty early on is if you've got a favorite team who's in the Cactus League, you probably want to see them at home. You probably don't want to go to a road game because you are not going to know anyone on the field if it's a road game.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I tell you one thing though that's underrated. That if you're into if you're that kind of a sport, baseball fan, like go out to the fall league. The fall league is amazing. It's still kind of that old spirit. Like it's really cheap to go get a ticket. You sit out there, and it's funny because you see all the scouts there. They've got their like their speed guns out there. You know, and they're writing notes down. It's kind of an awesome vibe out there. And these are the people who are, if I'm not mistaken, the fall ball league. These are the folks that are like, they're looking at moving up from minor league to major league.
Yeah.
So the competition's great.
Yeah. The most fun I've ever had going to ball games is when I lived in Eugene, Oregon, and we had the single A short season Eugene Emeralds. In this old wooden ballpark, and like single A short season, that's where like they're not quite sure they want to commit to putting you at a full-on single A team. So they've got the short season team, and it's not. I don't even think single A short season exists anymore. It's something else now. But those games are great because every once in a while you get the hotshot guy who was in single A short season, but by the end of the year he was going to be in triple A, and then he was going to be in the majors. And you had a lot of guys who were like, this was it. This was going to be their taste of not working at a real job. You know, they were going to get this 1 year dream of being a professional ball player. And so the games are fun. You had guys who were really good, guys who couldn't play a lick. You never knew what you were going to see because, you know, routine ground ball, 50-50 chance that you're catching the throw to first.
There you go. There you go.
Those are great.
Oh, man, what else can we say about baseball? Any other baseball news? Let's see here. I think the Diamondbacks TV deal is
$100 a year.
Yeah, $100 a year.
Diamondbacks.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, they're complaining they want a stadium deal.
Yeah. I'm not sure the timing coming off of a World Series run.
They've got a lot of public love and a lot of capital right now, social capital.
Yes.
Because that run last fall was amazing.
It was phenomenal. They were selling out the stadium, and it's not something you saw very often.
No, and it was amazing because like it was almost like people rediscovered like, oh, Arizona has a baseball team.
Yeah, and it was an exciting young team. Everything was great.
Yeah.
And then this week, back to back, we got the making noises about moving. And then if you want to watch a home game, that'll be $100.
Oh, please.
Any game. If you want to watch a game on TV, $100. Apparently, some sort of linear television plan will be coming. We don't know exactly what that means.
Well, I know I've got I know what I would prefer when it comes to linear or terrestrial TV. I know, and maybe I'm biased, but I think I know where I'd prefer them to land.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I don't think either of us want to say too much because it's weird because our station is involved in this. You know, we're the home of the Suns. It would be nice if the Diamondbacks could land in a place where people could see the games.
Yeah.
I think they'd benefit greatly from landing in a place where they could see the games.
Yeah, because then you get, you're creating a new generation of viewers, of fans, and that's always what you want with this kind of stuff. I mean, it just seemed like for a while the D-backs were just irrelevant. I remember, go out with some friends on a weekday, on a weekend day, and there'd be a game on we'd want to watch, and you'd walk into a bar or something, and you'd have to ask for them to turn the game on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what?
And
that wasn't happening last year.
No. And my son, who's a freshman in college, has never been that big of a sports fan. And then he was like, they hit the playoffs, and he was jumping in to grab tickets to go see a playoff game.
Yeah.
He was completely absorbed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them to grab fans back and create a new generation of fans. I hope they do something that allows them to do that, because so far this week has not really been a master class in how to appeal to your
But go
fans.
D-backs, right?
Yeah, go D-backs.
Go D-backs.
No, it's a great team. I love last year was so much fun.
Yeah.
Let's see it continue. And I hope I get to see it as it continues.
Yeah, and let's hope we make it to the playoffs. Look, I mean, for the non-sport ball types out there, like the Dodgers are probably going to run away with the division regular season. The amount of money that they threw down,
You would think so.
You would think so, but it comes down to the playoffs, and D-backs swept them last year.
Yeah.
Maybe
Dodgers outspent everyone last year and got swept by the Diamondbacks. You can build a great team with money. It doesn't. People act like it's a guarantee it's gonna work. It's not a guarantee it's gonna work. It frequently doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's just like the math of sports now, the analytics of it all. Like baseball's just such a different animal. It's like 162 games. Analytics are going to work when you're looking at something that big.
It's a big sample size.
A big sample.
Yes,
it's going to work there. But in a best of 7 where you got to win 4 games.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah,
because analytics tells you like you don't want a left-handed. You want a lefty on left. You don't want a lefty versus a right-handed hitter, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back 20-some years, like with Randy Johnson, one of the best left-handed pitchers ever to play the game, right?
Yeah.
Analytics says, right-handed batter coming up. Do you take Randy Johnson out because analytics says so? No, you don't do that.
No, you leave him in there because Randy Johnson was terrifying to everyone.
Oh boy! All right, that's
and let me add. I'd like the Diamondbacks to do well because it's so fun to root for a winner. And again, I'm an Angels fan, and I know better. We're not winning anything. It's a long, proud tradition of failure and personal tragedy.
Didn't Rod Carew play for your team at one point?
Yeah.
He was pretty cool.
No, we've had a lot of great players. Frequently after they were great. We're really good at paying hundreds of millions of dollars.
Like
for
Albert Pujols.
Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton.
Oh yeah,
a name that still makes me angry.
Oh yeah, I
could just picture him and start getting angry. And I'm not that guy. I'm not the fan who gets no. But Josh Hamilton is. I hate Josh Hamilton.
I know. And I just hope that, again, back to the TV thing. One of the I think the best things about baseball throughout the season is it's on every night.
Yeah.
And I can put it on in the background, get some work done, and it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
So I hope they land somewhere soon.
Yeah.
I have my preference. I'm sure you do too.
It would be nice. I don't know if it's happening, and we have no. Yeah, it ain't in our purview. We have no idea what's going on there.
All right. Well, anything else you want to bring up this week? I mean, we had a great discussion on the TV show. Hank from the Arizona Agenda brought us some great coffee mugs.
He did.
If you're watching on YouTube, I'm putting it up right here. It's very nice. He's a great guest.
Hank's always a wonderful guest.
And it's a great product. If you're into Arizona politics, which I'm assuming if you're watching this or listening right now, you probably are.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Go ahead and subscribe to the Arizona Agenda. It's it's a really great resource. And the other thing is a very entertaining read.
Yeah.
So check that out, and I'd like to thank him for donating some more of his time this week. So, anything stand out to you from the podcast, the TV show this week?
No, the TV show was fun. I mean, we had Julie Gunnagle on to talk about Rachel Mitchell.
Yeah, that's always fun.
So that was appointment television. I was looking forward to it. It did not disappoint.
It was some interesting stuff. I'm sure there are people that won't be happy that we put the former opponent of her on, but like, look, she's an
People who
attorney.
enjoy good television will be happy.
Yeah, you'll be happy about it, and like, she's got the legal background. She also knows the politics.
Yep.
Julie Gunnigal, she wasn't able to get over the top and beat Rachel Mitchell or win any of her races, but somebody with the experience of the politics and the legal background, I thought it was a really interesting discussion.
Yes, it was.
So other than that, man, it's been a busy week at the legislature. Yes. Don't have to rehash that. Hank and I went through all of that, but I just cannot stress enough again, like just how much of the stuff that is moving this year is just going nowhere.
Yeah, veto bait, as we've been saying.
Yeah, veto bait. And I kind of wonder too, there, because like one of the strategies we're seeing is that they are moving things to the ballot. There's a lot of stuff being proposed to go to the ballot. It seems like it's more. I haven't done it math, so stop at the fact checks or whatever. I'll sit down and figure this out at some point. But it seems like more things are being more bills are being referred to the ballot than in the past. And I guess my question is I started asking some of the lawmakers, like, aren't you abdicating your legislative responsibility? Yeah. You are elected to represent people to make these informed decisions that the average person doesn't have time to do.
Yes. And no one wants to spend 2 hours looking at their ballot trying to figure out what all these things mean.
No.
And some of the stuff, because isn't one of them going to be the let the legislature decide who the president should be and take the vote away from the people? Isn't that one of the things that was going to the vote?
Yeah. I think that's one. I have to double check. You call me on that.
Okay.
But I know there's immigration issues.
I still see a lot of public support for. I don't want to vote for president. You do it for me.
That would be telling if something like that did pass, though.
Yes, it would.
So there's a lot going there, and I at some point, like, you got to ask some of the lawmakers, like, are you relevant?
Yeah, isn't this your job?
Isn't this your job's not to refer things to the ballot. Your job is to build coalitions and build majorities to pass legislation.
That's why you're there. We don't want to vote on every single thing.
Yeah.
We elected you.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I don't get it. But, man, hell of a week.
Yeah.
Arizona Beer Week, baseball, and veto bait.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Colin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.